Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Interlocking Loops Flosstube. It's Sunday, February 13th, 2022. I'm your host Angela, and this is a video about my crafty pursuits, including cross stitch, a little bit of knitting, and quilting today. So let's get on with the show. Alright, let's talk about things I have got accomplished since we talked last. And you may remember I'd been working kind of on a small project, including the 12 Days of Stitchy Ornaments by Erica May Designs. That's Erica Arndt on YouTube. Confessions of a Homeschooler. There's this variety of little patterns, absolutely adorable, and they're nice and tiny and quick. I had started one of them the last time we talked. I don't believe I had it finished, and that was this cup of tea. And it's being stitched 2 flosses over one on 14 count opalescent Aida. And then I started and finished yet another little house. So I hope over the next year to kind of whittle away at these slowly. This was started as a project with my mother and my daughter, kind of the 3 generations. We tend to do something crafty around the holidays. So that's been fun and fast. All right, let's talk about what else I have. It's kind of in the line of acquisitions too, because last time we talked I didn't have these patterns, so we'll talk about a little bit of that too. So the stitching with the Housewives, their Valentine's Day patterns are adorable, also nice and fast. I've decided that I really like to stitch winter, Christmas, and Valentine's are my 3 favorites, based on the enthusiasm I've had for buying patterns. Key to My Heart, one of their tiered tray tidbits. I started to finish this one since we talked last, and I'm stitching it on 14 count chalkboard black Aida, which is almost hard to find now. You hold a key to my heart. Isn't that cute? I actually think this motif right here would go on maybe a 10 count black as more of a, little pillow to put in a tiered tray. I have not found the tiered tray to my liking. I did go to Hobby Lobby and I looked. Well, when I find it, I'll buy it, but I haven't found it yet. So, another one I purchased, started and finished, is My Valentine, also by Stitching with the Housewives. One of their tiered tray tidbits. They're just adorable, and I haven't ironed them, so sorry for the little bit of wrinkle. And I did make a little bit of changes. There was supposed to be a little more stuff around this heart. I omitted that, but I think it looks adorable. Then, most recently, I started Valentine Lane. I'm a sucker for little houses and barns. Another one of their, I believe it's a tiered tray tidbit. They all finish, I think the stitching size is like 3x4, so your fabric with borders is a couple inches bigger around. I did vary this one a little bit, in that I left out some of the middle section, and there was supposed to be a middle section between these words and these houses, and I left it out. While these are meant to be all finishing the same, I wasn't sure in my tier tray that I eventually will have that I wanted them to look exactly the same. So I decided I have a finished piece to have it more long and narrow suited me best. And what's nice is I did they do a DMC conversion. I know they primarily stitch in fancy floss. I did the DMC conversion, and all of them take all the same flosses. So that's been fun and easy to keep in the same project bag. There is one more that I didn't think was super Valentine's-y that I'm going to start. Well, technically I've started. There are a few stitches in it. Also with the same colors for the most part. It adds one color to this one that the other ones didn't have. It's Cookies and Coffee, a tiered tray tidbit. I wasn't totally sure this had to be Valentine, so I did it last. Hot cocoa would have been good on there too. And I've got barely a start. Just a few stitches. I tend to start from the middle and go out. And it's on the 14 count chalkboard black Aida fabric as well. So that's been fun. And I'll continue to work on the cookies and coffee and probably have it done by the next time we get together. Another thing that I've spent quite a bit of time on since we talked last is the Winter Rose Manor by Brenda Gervais. What do you know? Another house. The only thing that's better about this house is it's pink. I can't say I've ever stitched a pink house. And I still have the needle in the middle of the thread. So I have part of the border done, part of the house done, all the windows done, all the snow in the front. And I just need to get back to working on this. I've got part of the cardinal started. You see my needle there in the middle. But I'm changing the colors just a little bit, and when I finally have it finished, I'll do a blog post on exactly what colors I went with, and you can see those for yourself then if you're interested. I wasn't sure, because I changed some of the reds and pinks, I wasn't sure that the called for colors of the cardinal itself was what I wanted to stick with, and I'm still auditioning colors for that. So it's amazing how you can get projects done when you actually work on them. Now, I've also had a little more time to work on things than I did have, or currently on. Let's see, last month we were on lamb watch with the first group of lambs being born. We're now on baby goat watch. Our Nubians are due to have babies anytime. And so I actually have dedicated cameras and a TV screen set up to watch them. And our weather's been crazy. We had 55 degrees one day this last week, and almost all of our snow melted. But then like 2 days later, we had 6 degrees for a low. So 6 degrees is not really conducive for having babies that don't get too cold. So we're up every couple hours all night long. I'm on vacation. I take very few vacations. It's actually more of a staycation just to see about the animals, as they are my buddies. But let's get back to talking a little bit about Valentine stitching. The purpose in all that discussion was I've been home more. I haven't been able to really go anywhere because I wanted to be near if the goats were indeed having babies, so I have had more time to stitch. Alright, I'm not sure I talked about this last time, but it's a new purchase, and while I don't know that I will get it done this year, I for sure will work on it next year. It's Heart in Hand, Big Hearted Tiny Town, and I love the pinks and reds. It's a long, narrow one, and I think I'm going to do that on a navy Ada. So I think that'll be adorable. I'm kind of thinking that maybe some more of the patterns of the Tiny Town, I may need to check out more of those. And that is by Heart in Hand. Heart in Hand has also been very, they have some really great heart patterns. I have the Collector's Heart 2020 I bought from Fat Quarter Shop. And there's actually 2 designs in this as well. It comes as a kit, so it's got the buttons and the fabric as well as the pattern. I provided the DMC conversion that they mentioned. And then the last pattern that I wanted, since last year I have it kitted up with everything but the fabric and DMC, is by Little Stitch Girl. So I've liked this one for more than a year, so it's time that I purchased it. So whether I get these done or not this year remains to be seen. I kind of think I won't, but I've got a couple more in order from 123 Stitch. That's also Valentine's. It may very well be here tomorrow. So, all right. Hands-on Design usually has a freebie for her and her husband's anniversary, and she has that out. Her blog is www.handsondesign.biz, and it's the Wear Love pattern. It says Wear Love everywhere you go. And I like the fact it's done on kind of a chocolate fabric. It's probably too difficult to see here, but I like that. I mean, chocolate's synonymous with Valentine's, right? So she has fancy floss colors and I believe a DMC conversion listed on the free pattern. So check out her website to try to find that one. And she has some really adorable ones every year. So let's transition into a little bit of knitting. I think the last socks I was working on are by West Yorkshire Spinners. I've got them both finished. I did a Knit 2 Purl 2 ribbing. I start at the top and go down on US ones. That's 2.25 millimeter DPNs. I do a heel flap and gusset decreases, and then finish at the toe. This says 35% Blueface Leicester wool. It is a 4-ply, 75% wool, 25% nylon, and 437 yards. And those are my Christmas socks that, yes, it's a little late for Christmas, but better late than ever, right? So then I tend to have a pair of socks going all the time for, you know, here and there and everywhere. Well, they're also good if you're kind of a little bit anxious. I've made so many socks that I can knit around in a circle when I'm anxious without any trouble at all. And I cast on what I knew was going to be my next pair of socks. It's also West Yorkshire Spinners. They're 4-ply with 35% Blueface Leicester, the same 75% wool, 25% nylon, and knit from the top down. And these are spring colors to me. So I cast on those. I now have the leg done. I'll be doing the heel flap and then the gusset, and that's coming along well. And I did have some extra time to work on those. Not only was I on vacation, but my daughter, who lives out of state from me in grad school, was in a car accident. And I couldn't count stitches and cross stitch because I was too wound up about that, but I could knit in a circle. Hence how much work they've had on those in the last couple of days. So she's fine. Her car is not so fine. We'll find out this next week just how unfine that car is, if we need to try to find her another one or just what. Okay, let's see. Let's talk a little bit about quilting. I did join a quilt guild the beginning of the year. I've been to 2 meetings now as a member, and they're starting with some beginning blocks for us. For me, I think I'm the only one that's newly joined and definitely a beginner. This one is called Rail Fence Block from Quilters Cache. Let's see. That's www.quilters. Cache is spelled CACHE.com, and it's the Rail Fence Block. And I wish I had something for behind this, but I don't really. But it's a white on white print with kind of a swirl and heart, a light pink, and then a darker pink. And it finishes out a little bit bigger than a 12-inch block, because when it's all the way finished, it will be a 12-inch block. And I'm getting better at knowing what a scant seam allowance is, scant 1/4 inch, that is. I've had a little difficulty. My first 3 blocks did really well. The second 3, I think I got a little bit sloppy and had to do some little repair work on those. I have 7 blocks now finished. I would like to get another 2 blocks done before I have to go back to work later this week. But I think overall I wouldn't mind having up 12 to 16 blocks total. It makes, the initial pattern I think has 3 12-inch blocks by 3, and then I think there's a couple borders, trim around that of another, I don't know, maybe 5 inches, something like that. I did find out I can't get any more of the swirl white on white fabric at the quilt shop where I bought the initial at. They did have a big sale this last week, and that sold. So I knew I liked it. Why wouldn't other ladies like it? So, but I would like to make it big enough not just to be a 3x3 or 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet for hanging on the wall. I would like it to be a little bit bigger to use as a lap size quilt. Speaking of quilting, I did, sorry for the little bit of noise, I did buy, based on Celeste Creates Flosstube and quilting videos, some books by Angela Walters about free motion quilting. And if you're a quilter, you probably know all about this, and maybe this is way too easy for you. I don't know. But I did buy 2 books. The other one's Free Motion Meandering, A Beginner's Guide to Machine Quilting. Because while I thought, you know, it would be nice to have a professional quilt my quilts, these are going to be used quilts. I'm not going to show any of these quilts. They're going to be on the couch. My son did make me a nice quilt rack for Christmas. and I could display some of them there. But I really want to have these used, and we also have pets, and mine don't need to be perfect. They just need to be warm. So I'm going to try my own free motion quilting. Stay tuned for the adventure on that. Let's see. I did download the heart block pattern by Cluck Cluck Sew. It's not for retail. Her website is cluckclucksew.com. And the finished size of blocks makes anywhere from a 4-inch square all the way up to a 10-inch square, and tells you how to make a heart shape. Now, I'm not into, this has some triangles in it. I'm not into triangles. I'm not there yet, but I hope over the next several months I will be. So it kind of tells you a little bit how to do that, and that's Cluck Cluck Sew heart block pattern, and that's a freebie. Okay, so I was thinking, so I went to this Quilt Guild meeting, the first one, and they gave us out the beginner block, talked about some beginner things. I hadn't got signed up for the newsletter yet. They weren't ready for me to join. I think that's really what it was. And so I didn't get signed up for the email. Well, the email also told you, it sounds like this will be kind of a block of the month for maybe 9 months of the year, and then at the end they'll tell you about sashing and borders and binding, those kind of things at the last few months of the year, by the end of the year, to have one finished quilt. Well, I never really do things. I always have to take my own spin on them. And you know, they didn't give us fabric requirements for a finished project anyway, so I went with deciding to do the fence rail, the rail fence. I'm going to call it the wrong thing. A whole quilt just with that. I thought that would be fine with me. Nice pinks. It was inspired by Valentine's Day. Surprise, surprise. So I'm going to do one whole quilt. Okay, fine. So then at the second meeting here earlier this month, they gave out a new block. And do I have it with me? Let me check. I'm actually doing this video, and the table I'm doing it on is also the cutting table I've been using to cut fabric. So the second block is a disappearing 9-patch block. And from what I understand, it's a very popular block, and there's different ways to do it. I don't know, so if that makes any sense to those of you. And I'm not sure where this block is from, but it uses 3 different color fabrics. Well, I'm not always sure I'm going to stitch every single block that's going to come out. And I understand there's a purpose in beginners doing all these different blocks, the different skills you can learn as you go through the year. I can appreciate that, and I need that part. Okay, well, so what I decided to do when I went back to the quilt store for their sales stuff yesterday is I thought I would pick groups of 3 to 4 fabrics that could kind of go together in a block, and really only enough for a block, that I would be able to do some of these blocks, maybe not do a whole quilt. Maybe in the end, it's a 12-inch placemat. I don't know. We'll just see. But so that's what I ended up with that. So I'll show you just a little bit of the fabric because I think it's so pretty. So these would all go together, I thought. You may see, I maybe have bought some of this fabric in the past. I don't know if you can kind of tell. There's bits of blue, bits of green, and some fall leaves. Aren't those pretty? So to go with that, I have kind of a teal blue, kind of a gold yellow, and a green that I thought, if I have one of the blocks over the next few months that needs 3 colors to 4 colors, perfect. I've got 4 colors right here in fat quarters. So that's one selection I made. Then let's see, I have another one that's, you know, I still have a little bit of kick for this kind of pinky color. This was my inspiration from here, and I'm sure I'll learn about picking out fabrics as we go. It's kind of a pink. Then I did a kind of a pink stripe. Then I did more of a darker tan, and then I was pretty sure I needed something lighter and more simple. And it's tan with a little bit of a light dot to it. And I thought these were 4 colors, that if I needed 4 colors on one of the beginning quilts, I could use that. Then I have 2 other sets of 3 for if there's some that just take 3 colors. And this is an ivory and kind of a dark teal. 3 of those. Different patterns, kind of a dark. I don't need a lot of contrasty. Hello and welcome back. It's a couple hours later than when we talked last. First, my phone ran out of battery trying to record this, and then the goat I've been waiting on to have babies, she had triplets. So a lot has happened. So 2 boys and a girl, in case anybody wonders. So I'll be posting pictures, I hope, on Instagram on Ridgedale Farms. So you can see the babies there in a couple days. So, like I was saying, I have these 3 in case one of the blocks of the month for the beginning quilting series in my quilt group. Maybe I can use these to make a block. Then the last 3 that I purchased, and all these were from our local quilt shop, the Sewing House, are these 3. This is kind of a little rosebud, then a coordinating color to go with it, and then one that has kind of a fern kind of appearance to it. I thought these would go well, and if I needed 3 colors for another block. So those have been my purchases. I'm kind of excited about all the things coming up, and well, I did find out I really do like to stitch a lot of Valentines anyway. So, you know, Stitching with the Housewives also has some adorable things coming up for St. Patrick's Day. I've made a couple things for St. Patrick's Day in the past. I may be trying a few of those all tier tray tidbits as well because they're adorable. But that's it for this episode. I know it was kind of crazy. Hopefully we've been able to splice the 2 parts together. And until next time, if you think of any suggestions for Valentine names for baby goats, Cupid may be one of them. Anyway, until next time, happy crafting. Bye-bye.